Hi guys, Brian Secord, and I'm in the Boo Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Battle of Ontario Hockey Podcast, featuring a Senators fan and a Leafs fan. We're here to talk about your two favorite teams, the rest of the NHL, local hockey, hockey all around the world, and to bring back memories from your favorite hockey teams and players. If you love the Leafs, Sens, Sens, NHL, or any other hockey, including the late Belleville Bulls, you are going to want to tune into our podcast. The gloves are off, the buckets are spinning, let's get the chirps flying. Welcome to the Boo Club!
Hey guys, welcome to episode 6, season 3 of the Battle of Ontario Hockey Podcast, the Boo Club on the Pay It Forward Sports Network. Today we have an early 1990s Belleville Bull legend, Brian Secord, joining us very, very soon within about 5 minutes, and I'm going to take it to Flem.
So this episode is sponsored by Brad Warner, real estate agent with Royal LePage Pro Alliance Realty. If you're in the Quinte region looking to buy, sell, rent, anything like that, give Brad Warner a call. He's one of the best realtors in town, and we trust him with everything. So get Warner in your corner.
Get Warner in your corner, baby. I said that on an earlier podcast, like a long time ago, and Brad was showing us that at the tournament that he sponsored, that he was playing at.
Oh, was he?
So, Broeky, you got to see this. I love it. I can't remember if I told you guys already in the podcast about that.
No, you didn't tell me that. Yeah.
So now, like every time we do a Warner little ad, I got to get Warner in your corner, baby. Anyways, so we've got Brian Secord coming on here in a little bit, guys. We interviewed him the other night, and it was really good. Early 90s guy. So for some of the older crowd, even older than us, Flem, I know we're getting old, eh?
Yeah,
but
kidding, right?
I know the Belleville Bulls fans that watch us absolutely love it. So that's really fun. I do want to say one thing, do you remember what Sean Avery said to Dion Phaneuf a long time ago? Something about how's your sloppy seconds? And no, not sloppy seconds, but so we had a guest on here 4 weeks ago, we'll say, Sean McMorrow. And anyways, it was awesome. We want to have him on again. We plan to have him on again probably in, later on in the season, maybe next year, but because I know he has more stories. Anyways, 2 weeks later, he goes on Spit and Chicklets, which is the number one hockey podcast in the world. So pretty cool. We have a guy on 2 weeks later. Spit and Chicklets, the biggest hockey podcast in the world, has the same guy on. So you're welcome, Spit and Chicklets. I take it they did their scouting report on the Boo Club. So, Grinelli, if you want to get any other guys, let us know. Maybe we'll help you out, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure they visited the Boo Club a time or two too. Probably Biz back in the day, playing around the OHL. So Biz playing the OHL around the same time as McMorrow, right? So he probably did visit the establishment.
Yeah, I think Biz is like 2 years younger or something. I actually did watch their podcast. But anyways, buddy, we were just chatting, and your Toronto Maple Leafs are on fire right now. They seem to be winning at all costs, whether the refs are on their side or not. But anyways,
hey, it's not just
what are you seeing, and what are you liking, and what are you thinking for the rest of the season and playoffs?
Yeah, well, I'm not thinking too far ahead. Like, I'm not really thinking rest of the season or playoffs. I'm just thinking kind of, I think they're doing a great job kind of filling this gap. When they were out Samsonov, they wrote Murray for a little bit. Calgren looked okay. Then they went down Muzzin, Riley, TJ Brody's. Like, they're without their top three defensemen. And let's be serious, they're holding the fort right now. They're doing unreal. I know early, so I think there was a stat. I think it's like post Anaheim. Remember when they lost to Anaheim and like the world was coming crashing down kind of thing? I think they've taken 21 of a possible 26 points since then. And then since November 11th, since the Remembrance game day game that we went to, they've taken 14 out of a possible 16 points since November 11th. That's 2 weeks ago. And Broeky, that's only 1 point less than your Sens all year, buddy. So I'm feeling pretty good right now. I don't know about you.
Oh, Fleming. Well, I'll talk about the Leafs first. I mean, it's awesome. What's really good is they're actually, like, I think that you didn't even predict this because the goalies both went down, and now you're getting a lot of injuries. Riley's out. Is he not out for a month or so? Did I read?
Yeah, he's out for a month. Yeah.
I mean, that's their number one defenseman. So you got
and that's scary because he came into junior with a knee injury. Remember, he missed his whole season eligibility in junior before he got drafted with, I think, the same knee injury, or like an injury to the same knee. Sorry about that. But
Yeah.
so like, it's kind of scary for a guy that's just signed an 8-year deal, right? Like it's a little nerve wracking.
Especially his type of play. Like he's a skater.
Yeah.
He's a puck mover, right? He's moving his feet up the ice. That's what's creating his, especially offensively, right? So, but I think these guys, today's day and age, it's not like Bobby Orr in the 70s. They know how to treat them. And the other thing is they don't rush them back. You know what I mean? Yeah. They could, because they know, listen, I got this guy for how many, 7 more years at whatever, $8 million a year. They don't rush them back because they know like if all of a sudden he comes back and he plays the rest of the year, but we don't have him or we lose him early. I mean, not only we just lose a lot of money, we lost cap space, but we lost a player, right? So that's the difference from like today's age to even 20 years ago. But I mean, I know Orr played in the 70s, but even 20 years ago, it was way different, right? 10, 15, 20 years ago, they seem to rush guys back a lot quicker. And I think it hurts the longevity of their careers, right? So, but yeah, good on the Leafs.
All to save like a week too. You know what I mean? Like it's all to save like a week, like, kind of thing. Like, who cares that, maybe you miss 1 or 2 extra games. Like if you're healthy for the next 4 or 5 years because of it, or, you're feeling better, just take your time and let them get to, 90, 100% before you bring it back. Yeah. They probably did. It probably did cut a lot of guys short back in the day, right? Or diminish some of their greatness, I would think, just rushing them back from all these injuries.
Oh, 100% it diminished it. And sometimes I even feel weird. Like you feel like, oh, the guy wouldn't play Monday or Tuesday and he's skating full practice and then he'll play Wednesday. And I'm almost like, well, if he's skating full practice those days before, is he like, what's a day or two? But that's how they are, right? It's safety first nowadays, which I think in most cases is the right scenario, especially, a third of the way or a quarter of the way, whatever it is into the season. I mean, if we're talking game 7 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, I mean, right away, they're probably getting a shot in their ass and they're probably literally, and they're probably playing it. Right. So, I mean, there is differences sure. And we totally understand that, but no, good on the Leafs. I mean, they're fighting adversity right now. They got guys that are flying. I think Marner's on is he not on some crazy point per game?
Like 16 or 17 games in a row with the point, buddy.
Yeah, good for him. And he plays a shitload of minutes. Does he not play the most minutes, I think, out of any Leafs?
Oh, he easily plays the most minutes on anyone on the Leafs because he's on the power play 2 minutes every time.
Yeah.
He's on the first or second penalty kill. And I really think kind of slotting him back in with Tavares has kind of helped just give like a different look to teams a little bit, right? So they bumped Nylander up to that first, I guess you could call it the first line with Matthews and Bunt lately. And Willie's scoring like an animal, man. Like he's got 12 goals this year. He's a leading goal scorer on the team. So, I mean, when you got a guy like Matthews and Nylander together, maybe that helps Matthews because, hey, now you got 2 guys that can shoot, right? When you're kind of a Marner-Matthews situation, like, let's be real, you know who's going to take that shot 90% of the time kind of thing, right? So maybe having Nylander in there is kind of helping Matthews a bit. And I don't know, I think it's good that the Leafs give teams a different look every now and again. And look, that's clicking right now. So that's a good move by Keefe, pulling that off. And, yeah, and I think it's kind of dialed back a little on Marner's minutes, too. Probably stays him a minute or 2 a night, I would think, kind of going to the second unit.
Yeah, no, for sure. We had $60 or $100 on Matthew scoring 60 goals, right?
No, we did not.
What are you afraid of your own guy? Come on. I can't even reach you here.
More goals than Jimmy Stützle had points. So
Jimmy Stützle is on point per game right now. He's doing really, really well. But before we get to him, I want to talk about Marner just for 1 second there. At the start of the year, and you hear a lot of, you hear usually about D2, like Shabbat was one of them. I know Riley's another guy. Is these guys that play high minutes, right? That they go, oh, well, he had 4 turnovers or 3 turnovers or whatever. And it's like, man, if you're playing a guy on the 4th line and he's got 1 turnover and he played 5 minutes compared to a guy playing 25 minutes, he's going to have more turnovers. Not only that, not only playing more, he has the puck like 50 times more than these 4th liners. Marner's a guy that literally, when he's on the ice, he's got the puck way more than his teammates. That's the type of player he is. He's creating offense, right? He sucks guys in and then he fires it to someone like Matthews or a Nylander or whoever, and they put the puck in the net. That's the style of play is. So when you have a guy like that, they're risk takers. Like Erik Karlsson, same way, as a defenseman with the puck, they're going to make mistakes because that's what they do. They're offensively skilled. They don't get the puck. They don't go over the red line. They don't dump it in. Those type of players are going to have very, very limited turnovers, but they're also going to create zero offense. Maybe not zero, but way less offensively and contribute way less to their team, right? So you have to look at the balance. And I think when you look at the balance, if I'm the coach or if I'm manager of Toronto, I'll trade a couple of turnovers a game for Marner if he's going to create all this offense for his team, right? And he's going to be on the penalty kill as well. Those are huge. So, I mean, you have to take and give. You're not going to have a Mitch Marner with 0 turnovers every single game. It's just simply not going to happen, or he's not playing his best. And honestly, I know that sounds weird, but it's just not going to happen. Turnovers are going to happen, right? So I just think it's funny when people get on his case. Not just him. I'm using him as an example, and it's like, man, they play 25 minutes a game. Go out there after 5 minutes and try and skate. Like, these guys are in unreal shape, but they still get tired, right?
It's like I kind of said after the Anaheim game when Keith called out Marner again. I think you're calling out the wrong guy. Like, man, that guy's playing 25 minutes a night. Like, mistakes are going to happen because, like, sometimes maybe if you have a giveaway, you just don't have the legs to, take that extra stride or two to make, maybe the appropriate play or the right play. So you just kind of, you flip it or you dump it kind of thing. I would love to see a stat of how much Marner has the puck on his stick when he's on the ice. I bet you it's like 30% of the time. Like, that guy, honestly, it seems like he never gives up the puck. Like, he has it, he dumps into the corner, he's the first guy there. Somehow he gets the puck, and then he's got it again for another 10 seconds. Like, I would love to see, like, time of possession on Marner. That guy's got to be one of the tops in the league, and, like, he's got to double any other Leaf, I would think. Like, he's an animal in terms of time possession. Like, maybe he doesn't shoot it enough kind of thing, but, he's he's the driver on that team. I think, at least right now, he's the guy that's making it tick for sure, I would think.
And it's so funny because when Toronto's losing, so many people are on trade Marner's case, right? Now we're talking about the Leafs are winning, and we're talking about how big of how big he is for this team. So I just think it's funny.
Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, can he do it in the playoffs though, right? That's the same thing with the Leafs all the time. Can the team do it in the playoffs? So that's why I don't, you said, what's your look long-term, what's your look in the playoffs? I'm just looking to Monday night against Detroit, buddy. Looking to come out, take on the Red Wings and get another 2 points. Hopefully Murray's back in net and go from there. And you probably need a Leafs win here because you need to catch Detroit if you got any chance of getting back into the playoffs, buddy. Like, Detroit's the team you got to catch, Broeky. You know that.
I'm not really thinking about playoffs right now, buddy. I'm thinking about winning 2 games in a row. Like, this has been, I mean, it's been an absolute joke. I do have a little spin here. So we were talking about Marner and minutes and everything. And the other guy to go on with that would be, like, for Ottawa, would be Chabot. The last couple of years, 3-4 years, he's played, I think, second most amount of minutes in the whole NHL. And the same thing, the turnovers. Well, when you're on a bad hockey club and you play that many minutes, the same thing's going to happen, which I just explained to Marner. And I praised Chabot the last few years, and up until, this podcast, I've really been on Chabot's case. I don't think he had a really good start to the year at all. And personally, I think DJ's wore him out the last few years. And I think that, you're overplaying him. Obviously, probably had a nagging injury, I'm guessing. So he was out for 10 days, I think, give or take, with a concussion or minor concussion, whatever they want to call it. And he played last game, and he played his best game since last season. And looking at it going, does this guy did he need to reset and get refreshed? And sometimes when guys are worked that hard and played that much and, relied on that much and the pressure that much, sometimes just resetting a guy too and giving him, obviously this was a reason he was off, but I just think sometimes that helps players, right? And the other thing is, our coaching has to dial him back. There's no reason for him to play 25 minutes with how good Sanderson's playing. They both play the left side, play them 22 minutes each, and everybody's happy. So, but anyways, to go on with my Ottawa Senators, it's been one hell of a month. Again, November kills us every year, except for 2017. It's been way unpredictable. Nobody's predicted this. Nobody's predicted them to be this bad. And the funny thing is that other stats, which mean nothing, the only thing that you did not predict Ottawa to be this bad, so shut up. The only stats that matter is winning. So people, they tell me these stats all the time. It's like, well, you didn't win. But at the end of the day, all the other stats, it's not like they're an Anaheim Ducks. It's not like they're a Phoenix Coyotes and they're losing, and they're trying to get a draft pick. They're right there in pretty much every game other than the last couple. But at the end of the day, here's a comparison I have, and it's a weird comparison, but is it DJ's fault? No. I would say all in all, no. But it's like when a goalie, you allow 3 goals halfway through the first period or whatever, start of the second period, and you're down 3-0. And maybe he could have had 1 or 2 of them, but it wasn't his fault. But you changed the goalie. Well, a lot of times it's just because you need to change the momentum. And how many times have we seen that through the years? You change the goalie, I mean, for any league, and then all of a sudden, for some weird reason, the team gets back into it, where they come back, tie it, or get close, or win, whatever the case. It can change the momentum of the game. And I think we're at that point right now with the Ottawa Senators. It is not to blame DJ. I think he's made a lot of mistakes, but at the same time, I don't think the reason for their record is this bad is because of him. But at the same time, it's like you hear that same voice, and and then the losing keeps happening for whatever reason, bounces. There's a lot of things involved. I think sometimes just a new voice in there. It's like the new goalie. It's like a new regroup. It's a reset, like the Shabbat thing. Sometimes that needs to happen. And unless Ottawa goes on some weird streak here where they win like 5 of the next 7 games, minimum almost, like minimum they'd have to win, I think the guy's got to go. As far as I'm concerned, because I think they just need to reset. I honestly think that's what it's about right now.
And sometimes it lights a fire under a guy's ass too. Like when you come in, like maybe you're a guy, you're thinking, oh, I'm sitting here with DJ, I'm playing a comfortable second line minutes. Well, you let go of DJ, some new coaches in, maybe you're not so assured of your spot. Maybe you dig in a little more, right? So yeah, that can happen. Like it can work. But you were telling me the other day you might want Pierre Dorian gone too. That's something I did not see coming from you. I don't know if you backtrack on that now, but that was a weird take you gave me the other day, Broeky.
Well, I think there was a lot of frustration built up, and I do follow up.
That was a weird one.
Well, no, I do. I honestly though. So he had a really. We thought overall. I think everyone thought he had a really good summer. I mean, picking up DeBrincat, who hasn't scored as much as I thought, as everyone planned or hoped for, but he actually's been doing okay points wise. He's not far off of last year's pace, to be honest. Points wise, he has less goals, more assists. But Giroux, I thought's played really, really well. I've liked his game. So those two, it's hard to argue with, right? But the thing is we still had a hole in D, and everybody said it. There's still a young D. You still should pick up one more D. They talked about, and I always Don Cherry, this guy's name, Chakrin. Am I saying it right? I'm saying it wrong. Chikrin, and they talked about a couple other guys, and we're like, okay, yeah, we'll get a D, and we never got a D, and we had injuries, Shabbat out, Zubel was huge. He missed 7 games. I think we lost all 7. He might have missed 8, and we went 0-8. So that shows how big him gone. We brought Bernard Docker up. He's now out a month. So to me, that's the mistake there. The other thing is, I feel that DJ probably should have been let go a week or 2 ago, and who's not letting him go? Pierre. So I think it's a lot of frustration. Do I think anything will happen? No. But I think if it keeps happening and we win 1 out of every 5 or 6 games, then guess what? This is a business. They need to go. So, I mean, unless they win tonight and they keep winning, and like I said, they win 5 of the next 7 games, maybe guys' jobs are safe. But if this keeps going this same trend, they got to clean house, because at the end of the day, you built the team and you're coaching the team, and that's it. You're paid to win.
I don't think you can do that when you haven't had Josh Norris. I mean, he's your number 1 center, and you can't say anything different. He's a 40-goal scorer. He's your number 1 center. You cannot get rid of the coach when he hasn't had Josh Norris for how long now? Is it 3-4 weeks? I mean, I just don't think you can do it. I don't think it's a fair thing to do to the coach. I mean, I think DJ's a decent coach. Yeah, there's been some mistakes, but I mean, to fire a coach, this close in, it takes teams some time to gel, get chemistry. I mean, you've added 2 pieces to your top 6. That's a pretty big shuffle, right? So, I don't know. I think you got to give DJ a little time. With that said, if they're trending this way by, January 20th kind of thing.
That's a waste of time. Maybe. Why wait until January 20th? Well, January 20th, we got 10 wins and 30 losses. Well, what the fuck is the point then? You might as well hold on to him because he's losing and then go for Bedard. That's what I'm talking about. It's either you got to make a decision to regroup now or you're not, or you can stay with him. That's my point. Because at the end of the day, when you're underachieving,
Leafs fans overreact.
Well, at the end of it, yeah, but the thing is, you have to understand is we've been going through this rebuild for 4 years now, right? So I think 2018, 19, 20, 21, 20. This is the 5th year. Now, the first year, year and a half, you're getting rid of guys. So technically, let's say 3.5 years. But still, now it's like, this is the time to win. They went on a 7-game losing streak where they didn't get a point. Come on. That's just unacceptable. It's not like they're going for, Bedard and at the end of the day, wins aren't going to happen because they don't have talent in the lineup. I mean, you're telling me you don't have enough talent in the lineup without Norris to win 1 of 7 games or 2 is 0 points? That's 0 for 14. That's bullshit. Josh Norris is a good hockey player, but he is not that good. You're telling me if they Edmonton Oilers without McDavid, they're going to go 0-7 without Matthews. And those guys are way better than Norris. Way better. I mean, come on. Look at Boston. They didn't have Marchand for how many games? They're in first place. Marchand's arguably the best player. Arguably. I know there's a couple other guys there, but Norris isn't Ottawa's best player. So I get what you're saying, but I mean, to go that shitty, I mean, if they're sitting outside and maybe they're, 2 or 3 games under 500, then you can use that argument. But when you're 6 or whatever it is games under, I mean, and you lose 7 in a row and then you win 1 and then you lose 4 in a row or whatever it is, I mean, that's just no excuse. It's one player.
I love the passion, Broeky. I love the energy you're bringing to the show, buddy. You're fired up. And I think I'm happy to see the Sunders fans stressing out a little bit. Like, it's easy when you guys are losers for 4 years and you're like, we can lose this one, kind of thing. And, you're not stressed about it. But now you're kind of, you want to turn that corner. It's not happening like you want. So, I like to see the passion, the frustration coming out of you. It gives a little smile on my face. I like to see it. But the Pierre take's gone. Like, I did not see that coming from you. And you mentioned that the other day that they should fire Dorian, because all I heard all offseason is, look at Pierre, smile. It's a summer Pierre. Everyone's smiling.
Pierre, yeah.
Everyone's happy. And hey, it's getting to winter. And suddenly you guys aren't so hot on Pierre anymore. So,
that's life, though. That's you don't. That's what the business is about, though. That's what hockey's about. It's not what about you did yesterday. It's what you're doing for me today, right? That's it. And that's how. Not just hockey, sports in general.
That's how life works. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, could you imagine Toronto lost 7 games in a row? Come on. Even when they were doing their rebuild, like if they had Matthews and Marner, and I don't care if Marner missed the 7 games, there's no way they're going 0-7. Could you imagine the media would be blowing this up? You think Ottawa's blowing it up? Toronto would be insane, even 4 or 5 in a row.
I mean, I don't know if you remember the Toronto media after that loss in Anaheim, but it was pretty much like,
and that's one game. And I know they're different.
Oh, no. They had lost, I think they had probably gotten like, I don't know, let's say 3 out of like 10 points at that time on the road trip kind of. Yeah, because they lost 3 in a row, but then they probably went like, I don't know, like they were maybe 3-6 or something like that, kind of like they were losing twice as much as they won. And it was a shit show. Like it was the Wild West here. You could tell everyone was under pressure. Keefe was ripping Marner. It's just it's a different world when you're winning and losing. And I got to say, it's nice to be on the winning side right now. Not as much stress in your life, for sure.
There definitely isn't. But I'll tell you, Ottawa won their last game. We're taping before the LA game. So hopefully by the time this goes up, they beat LA. They're 2 in a row, and we can get the ball rolling a little bit here. But it's funny. Sometimes the puck luck's there. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes the ref just called no goals all game against the number 1 team in the league. I don't know. I mean, I know they're all fair calls. The first call I thought was BS. I thought it's a goal. Did you watch the calls? Because my take on this is, so the guy hit a skate. Okay. Goal interference. But the rule is if they release and then the goalie can move and now it's open. So he went like this, let go, and then the goalie moved his pad and the puck went in. To me, that's a goal. Anyways, it is what it is. They called 3 no goals against New Jersey. At the end of the day, Toronto's still hot, and they took down 1 or 2 of the hottest teams in the league because Boston was still the hottest. They both lost the same night. So I think New Jersey's going to cool off here. I still think they're going to be a hell of a hockey club. I just don't think they're definitely not stay at the same pace. But hey, they get into playoffs and they can throw this offense up there with Lindy Ruff, who's coached how many billion NHL games. I mean, anything could happen, right? So I still think I think they're probably going to get first or second in that division for sure.
Yeah, no, I can see that happening here. But I want to take a little turn here, Broeky. I want to kind of let's pivot into the Secord interview a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
If you want to kind of a take on how different hockey is now as it was kind of in the early 90s, the mid 90s. This is an interview you got to listen to, because I'm telling you guys, hockey was pretty much the goddamn Wild West back then. We have Brian Secord. He's coming up here in about a minute, and he's telling the stories of like Brett Lindros, who's Eric Lindros's brother, fighting Doug Douell while he's locked in the penalty box, jumped up on the glass, punching over things, coaches trading guys away just to get a pack of cigarettes from the States. Like, it was a different time back then. And we're going to hear it. So we're going to get into the Secord interview right now. And I think we're not going to come back after this, Broeky. So let's just let's wrap up here. But guys, so Brian Secord's coming on right now. Next week, Broeky, we got another Belleville Bull legend coming on. Our boy, number 18, Randy Rowe, 64-goal season in his last year, OHL champion. So we're going back-to-back heavy with the Bulls here, Broeky.
So Randy's going to be awesome. And just one last thing before we hit into Secord. Secord's 2 main line mates were Craig Mills, who was the captain of the Bulls Many old Bulls fans will know him. And probably one of the most famous Belleville Bulls ever was Danny Cleary. Remember how big he was in the 90s, especially during this era? They were his line mates. So he's got some fun stories. So have a listen, guys, and enjoy Brian Secord.
All right, guys. Today we are joined by a man who played 4 seasons for your Belleville Bulls. He was drafted in the second round of the OHL entry draft and made an immediate impact in the OHL, turning into the team's #1 center for years to come. He was the team's leading scorer in the 1994-95 season and was part of one of the best lines in Bulls history with Dan Cleary and Craig Mills. After his OHL career, he would go on to play 6 years of pro hockey. Ladies and gentlemen, a man who's in the top 20 all-time of every offensive category for the Belleville Bulls, Brian Secord. Brian, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, guys. Great to be here, man. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, no problem. We're pumped to have you on. So like I said, a lot of people have kind of been looking for interviews with, some guys from the mid-'90s, the late '90s kind of thing. So I guess first thing we'll do is maybe kind of tell the viewers a little bit about yourself. You were a high pick in the OHL, right? Second-round pick to Belleville. So maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found yourself in Belleville. Like, do you know you were going to get drafted in the OHL?
I can give you a quick rundown. Belleville was the last place I thought I was going to get picked. They were one of the only teams that I didn't speak to before the draft at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. And sitting there in Maple Leaf Gardens, the old Maple Leaf Gardens, and my name got called 23rd overall, which, it was a little bit surprising I was that early, but Kevin Abrams and a few of the scouts, they were out to watch me play quite a bit, and they enjoyed the way I played. So I couldn't be happier to play my 4 years there with Mav and a great group of guys. Like I said, we had a great line there with Dan Cleary and Craig Mills. And just all the way through, such a small community when our teams got along so well, and we had great success in the years I was there.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you actually thought you were going to go a little later than
yeah, I thought second round, but I was pretty early in the second round at 23rd. I think back then, I'm not sure what we had, 17 teams, 16 teams maybe in the league. So I thought maybe later in the second. I wasn't sure, but Belleville wasn't a team. That was, like I said, the only team I don't think I spoke to, and then all of a sudden, boom.
So did you have any idea where you're going to go? Like, were there any teams that were really interested, or?
Yeah, Oshawa was really interested. Windsor was interested, and London was really interested. So, and Windsor and London are close to my hometown, where I played my junior B in Chatham and then in Petrolia. So that's sort of right around that neck of the woods, right? So they saw a lot of me down there then at that time in my draft year.
And did you know where Belleville was? Because a lot of guys kind of say, maybe at the time when they get drafted, I didn't know what Belleville was, kind of thing.
Well, I didn't really. I knew because Darren McCarty, obviously Leamington. I grew up in a small town called Ridgetown, Ontario, which is by Chatham. It's only a town of about 3,200 people. It's like a Sterling of your Belleville sort of thing, right? So I knew of Darren McCarty, so I kind of knew of Belleville that way. And Karts was one of the ones that was down on the floor that took me in when I got drafted, with the handshake, and ran into him after at the hotel and things like that. So, that was pretty cool. And, my living quarters with Ted and Heather Soul, my billets in Belleville where Brent Gretzky lived before me for 4 years. So that's where I stayed as billets. And then I ended up playing with Gretter and Pensacola in the East Coast League. So that worked out pretty cool, too, playing with an old Bull that way.
So it all kind of goes in one circle, eh? What's that, Flem?
Did you know those billets? They were the Souls, right? So I was just asking.
Yeah, I was with Teddy and Heather Soul, yeah. And Teddy was the commentator for the Bulls. Or the announcer, I guess you should say.
Yeah, I think, did he used to be involved with the Bobcats back in the day before the Bulls, maybe?
Teddy did, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
He's been around. God bless his soul. He's passed a while ago. But, he was back with the Bobcats back in the day, for sure.
Now, let's just put you in perspective here. So you go to the draft, and obviously you got Darren McCarty talking there. Do you remember any words Darren might have said for Belleville? And, maybe.
You know what? Cart said it, Seeks, you're going to love it here. It's a great small community, and I know you're from a small town. You'll get to know everyone, which I did. And I still have a ton of friends and go back. I'm back in Belleville all the time. my daughter is in Belleville actually right now. She's from Belleville too. So I'm back in Belleville quite a bit, guys, a lot. So I'd love to catch up with you guys at some point. Would be great.
Yeah, for sure. We'd love to have a beer sometime, and that'd be tons of fun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So maybe at our next golf tournament too. I know we were kind of talking earlier about the one last year.
Sorry, something came up there with my dad, and I apologize because I was looking forward to coming down to that actually because I'm good friends with Maisie and a bunch of guys, and I saw he played in your tournament too.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny you say, like, a lot of guys that end up playing in Belleville, especially when they play, 3-4 years, just keep that connection, right? Like, we know a bunch. We were talking to a guy at our last podcast where they actually ended up moving here and living full time and marrying girls, or like your daughter or family's here, or a lot of friends, so you end up being your second city, I guess, right? So
yeah, I come back quite a bit. I still, like I said, have tons of friends, and myself and Craig Mills, who's on the line, I'm still great friends with Craig, who's in Toronto here too, and we come down quite often, and have good friends, Brent McFarland, who lives. He used to be the beer rep, actually.
I know Brent really, really well, actually. I know. Yeah, I know Brent. Yeah, great guy. Great guy.
Yeah, so Farley and I are really tight, and he was the beer rep when I played Belleville. He's out of that business now, but obviously he was the beer rep, and Mav and him had a little stint of living together. So
did they? I didn't realize that. He was Labatt, I think, wasn't he?
He was Labatt. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get to Belleville anyways, and Maverty's here, and we've heard lots of stories through the years.
Oh, fuck,
maybe you can tell us just a little bit about him.
So I'll give you one brief story. It's funny. I got traded my last year, my overage year. I had signed with Hartford with the Whalers. So the Sioux traded for me for Joey Van Volsen. I don't know if you guys remember back, and it was right at the end. And Mav always loved his American cigarettes, his red Marlboros. So, and I was right in the Sioux, and the Sioux, Michigan's right across the border. So I come back to Belleville for my game, and the barn was sold out, and first thing I do is go over and bring Mav a fucking carton of Marlboro Reds, and he was in heaven. Like, see, I didn't want to get rid of you, but I had to. We had to make that move, and I said, Mav, I got no hard feelings whatsoever, pal, and ended up scoring a couple goals in that game of my return to Belleville, actually. So, Mav was quite an interesting character. He was a player's coach. He was hard-nosed. He was hard on you. Some guys didn't know how to take him. The way he coached, he could come right down and tell his Seek shit fucking awful tonight. Some guys would bury their heads in the sand, but I could take it from him, and that's where I think I had a great relationship with Mav.
Yeah. So what was he like? Kind of like so when you come into the camp for your rookie year, what was camp like your first year? Were you a little intimidated, and did you know you had a spot on the team?
Yeah, I was a little intimidated at the start with Mav. But you can't really show that with him because then he can bounce on you. So I learned that pretty quickly, stand up for yourself and just play the game the way you want to play it and the game that he expects you to play, right? And right from the get-go, I had a great relationship with Matt, but very intimidating, and I've been called into his office many times. Seeks, get in here. Did you miss curfew last night? Where were you? What did you do?
So I got something to ask you, actually. So I was talking with one of your teammates today, and he gave me a little thingy. So did you used to I heard that if you put your phone, back then obviously no cell phones, but I heard that you wouldn't put your phone off the hook because then Mav knew that it would go to a voicemail or do something. But if you unplug the phone, then it just keeps ringing and ringing and ringing. So you think you're sleeping. Is that true?
Yeah, that's exactly the truth. That was one of the tricks of the trail right there.
So one of my old coaches, actually, he babysat me when he played for the Bulls a little bit, was Steve Trace. He's a principal.
Great guy.
So I just sent him a quick message actually not too long ago, and he just told me that story. He said, "Ask him about the phone." So
yeah, true. Yeah, because we didn't have cell phones back then, right? And I think her name, who always used to do our curfew checks, was Rhonda. And that's what I used to do with my phone all the time. Tracer's a school teacher, isn't he, in Belleville?
He's been a principal, I think.
Oh,
or
he's
vice
a principal. Oh,
yeah,
great.
no. Yeah, he's doing pretty good for himself. Actually, he was my minor midget AAA coach many moons ago, but I got along with him great, obviously, and he's doing well for himself. So, no.
Another old bull that I just ran into this year, I was out in Oakville with a friend, James Boyd, obviously.
Boyder, oh, yeah, there's a guy that's doing unreal for himself.
Yeah, I'm really close with Boydie. I go to a lot of games with him and help him and watch him and do some stuff with him. So we were out in Oakville watching a game, and we were watching the Quinny team, actually, and it was a tournament in Oakville, and ran into Smitty, Jeff Smith.
Oh, yeah.
So I ran into Smitty because he coaches I think it's the 07 group, maybe.
Okay, yeah. Now, wasn't Smitty like first or second overall to the
He went second overall to the One Sound Platers, if you can believe it. And then he ended up coming to us. I don't know how many years, maybe 3 years into the league. Smitty came to us into Belleville, yeah. But he went second overall in the draft. I'm trying to think. It was Todd Harvey that won that year.
Okay, yeah.
Smitty went 2, and Chris Gratton went 3 to Kingston that year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So, because my year first overall was Jeff O'Neill.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And I ended up being with O-Dog in Hartford. We signed the same year with the Whalers.
Oh, really? Okay. So did you play in the AHL with him or something? I was looking at some stats. Did you end up playing?
So I signed a 3-year deal with Hartford. But if you see, I bounced all over in the minors, like in the American League. And then I played with Randy Carlisle in Manitoba for the Moose. He was my coach. Kitty Carlisle was my coach in Manitoba for the Moose, which was a great year there. And then I played all over, in the southern states. And like I said, I ended up playing with Gretter in Pensacola. And so I covered a lot of states and a lot of kilometers or miles, as you would say in the States, right?
Yeah, well, we've seen that on your Hockey DB. There was a few teams there.
Yeah, for sure.
What was what's a couple places or one or two places that you really liked, and a couple places that you're glad you kind of left? Maybe
where I loved playing in Manitoba. Winnipeg was a great hockey city. Great hockey city. I played in Quebec too. That was fucking difficult because I wasn't a fan of Quebec City. Montreal, I could be fine, but Quebec City, they expect everything in French.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing in French. Like, even if you didn't even try, they were just like basically fuck off at a restaurant. Like, they didn't give you the time of day.
Well, that's what everyone says. If you don't even try to speak in Quebec, they just nope. Even if they know how to speak English, that's what we're told they're like, right? We're not.
So I basically would walk in the restaurant and say bonjour. That would be my fucking move. Now, can you give me a menu in English so I can order some food?
That's why you were going to the buffets, just so you could say buffet.
Where was a city that was a shithole that I played in? Tulsa, Oklahoma was a shithole.
Tulsa, yeah.
Yeah, that was. To be honest with you, where was a fun place to play was Little Rock, Arkansas. You would never think it, but we drew pretty well, and great group of people. And I'm an avid golfer, so we had great condos right on a beautiful golf course. So you go to practice, load your golf cart up right in front of your condo, grab the beers, load up the golf cart, and go play golf right after practice every day. It was pretty good.
That's the life right there.
That sounds mint, eh? That sounds awesome.
That to me beats Manitoba. Sorry, but
the
winners, they're a little.
The Manitoba part was pretty dicey some nights. You had to plug your car in every night because it got fucking cold. Trust me there.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And the flights were difficult in Winnipeg because you never had a direct. We always had to go through Minneapolis, and we flew everywhere, right? Because we were playing in Vegas, we were playing in Salt Lake, we were playing in Orlando, all the IHL teams, the old IHL teams.
Okay. So what was it like to go to Vegas? Or the NHL obviously was there. You
know what it's like to go to Vegas? It's playing guilty hockey every day. The next day, put it to you that way.
That's why Vegas was like 40-2 in their first year in the league at home or something like that, right?
Yeah, everyone was playing it
from the away teams.
They definitely have a home. They have the home ice advantage there for sure. Yeah. So
and Pensacola, did they have a golf course there? Because that would have been nice.
Oh yeah, Pensacola was another great place. I shouldn't leave that one out. we lived right on the beach too, so it was phenomenal. That was a good, and we made a run right to the finals in Pensacola, and that was the second year. No, that was the first year they had a franchise in Pensacola, and we used to sell that building out 7,000 people a night, just
Really?
rammed in Florida. You'd think in Pensacola in the Panhandle, who the fuck would know that would happen? But
Yeah, that's crazy.
We had a great team. We had like Frank Gretzky was on the team. Glenn Metropolitan, who played in the NHL for a bunch of years.
Yeah, okay.
Metro, he played all over in Europe too. We just had a phenomenal team, and we went right to the finals that year, which was great.
Yeah, I think one of the guys we had on a podcast, he didn't play for the Bulls, but he played for the Dukes. He played for Pensacola. Did Lions not play later on, Fleming? I'll have to ask him again that. But
they have,
I remember,
you know what? They went from the East Coast League to the
South SP, right?
Yeah, the Southern.
That was when he played. I'm pretty sure it was Pensacola.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the Southern Professional or whatever. It's like the league.
A lot of guys can make that jump because it's like make that jump from say the Dukes or wherever to that level.
Yep.
It's not like it is like
not the East Coast,
like East Coast, you know what I mean? Like
it's like a lower level for sure. But no, I'm pretty sure he played there too. But no, that's pretty cool. You played a lot of neat spots by the sounds of it.
Yeah, no, I did play in some cool cities. Cincinnati was a good city in the IHL too. It was that was good too.
Now with the pro, like all these leagues, like you played back when there was a lot of fights. What was a typical night like? Is there 3-4 fights kind of thing?
At least, especially in some of the other, like in the Western Professional League and things like that. It got pretty dicey some nights. You know what? Even back in the IHL days, you had a lot of older players that, former NHLers that were playing, making decent money, but they still battled every night, and there was some pretty heavyweight tilts, and you got to think of a guy like Sasha Lakovic or things like that, like those crazy bastards. But it was it got dicey some nights for sure. It's not the same game anymore. I can tell you that.
Yeah. It's completely different, right? So speaking of getting dicey, did it ever get dicey in Belleville? Because someone told me that you're obviously a really skilled player, like you led the team in points one year, but you were also feisty as hell, I heard, and sometimes you even liked to scrap. So is that true? And was there ever any memorable nights kind of in Belleville?
I used to cause a lot of problems on the ice for sure, but I played a hard game, and I had my protectors. Doug Douell was my savior a lot of the times, for sure. He bailed me out many, many times. What's that?
I was telling Jeff. Oh, go ahead, finish what you're saying. Well, I was going to say I want to talk about Doug Douell.
Dougie bailed me out many times on and off the ice. Put it to you that way.
Okay. So whereabouts off the ice? Was Little Texas around then, or was that before?
Yeah, Little Texas. No, Moviola was
big then. I know that.
Was then. Yeah, Little Texas. I think that was after we were gone, and then we'd come back in the summer. That would be the sort of thing.
Okay.
And I always helped out Farley at what's that? Waterfront Festival.
It used to be really big then.
Yeah, and that's when because he ran it all. Like Labatt's was the main thing, right? So
yeah,
I come down there for the whole weekend, and that was a shit show in itself.
Yeah, back then, the 90s and whatnot, even early 2000s, Belleville had an awesome waterfront. They'd had tons of bands, everything going on. And then in the last 10 years or so, it's really gone downhill. There's just...
I haven't been because we have a cottage up in Muskoka, so I'm up there a lot of the time, so in the summertime. But I haven't been in the summer that often because I'm usually at our place. Because I'm good buddies with like a lot of the hockey players that have places up there. Like Brett Lindros is one of my best friends, and he used to be my worst enemy in Kingston.
Oh yeah.
I got a Brett Lindros question here. So I seem to remember a night where I think Kingston and Belleville got in a line brawl, and it was your line too. It was like Secord. It was you, Cleary, Mills.
Yeah.
And then somehow Doug Douell came in and like. Weren't him and Lindros fighting in the penalty box? Or like Lindros stood over the boards? Lindros stood over the penalty box and Douell was throwing up and Lindros was throwing down. Do you remember that? Or
yeah, that's exactly the night. I did totally remember. It's funny you say that now. Like me and his nickname's Bear, but me and Bear are like best friends. I was in his wedding, everything, and Dougie and him are close. It's pretty cool how, everything amalgamates together after hockey's all done, and we do business together, some of us, which is together. So It's interesting. Anyways,
Do you remember who you got tied up with that night, or who you went during that line brawl? Or
I
no?
can't remember. I think it was Cale McLean, to be honest with you. I think he coaches somewhere now. Coaches in the American League or somewhere. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Someone told me a story about that night in that brawl, and they said everyone got like kind of 5s and 10s, and it was the third period, got kicked out. But for some reason, Cleary only got like a 5, but he really got like beat up in the scrap. But he came back in overtime or something and scored like the game-winning goal with a couple minutes left. And,
yeah.
And like, but I thought like he took his equipment off or something like that because he thought he was kicked out. Like, no, come on back for overtime.
Come back, yeah. That's exactly what happened. He was in the room with all of us undressing. Yeah,
no, he was out of the room like a bat out of hell, and it's like you can tell he just figured it out.
He was a great kid, Danny. I still talk to him quite a bit. He works for the Red Wings organization in down in Grand Rapids, and he was a lot of fun. Fun newfie, put it to you that way.
Oh yeah, all the newfies are fun, aren't they? But we got to ask you. So obviously you guys are already on the Bulls, you and your teammates, and this young kid Dan Cleary gets drafted. He was he drafted underage, wasn't he?
Yeah, underage pick. Yeah, he played his junior in Kingston.
Yeah, that's right. So what was it like, knowing this, next superstar was coming to Belleville, and obviously you're one of the guys that was kind of leading them through it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I don't know if you guys have the notes in front of you, but I don't know if Danny was that high a pick to Belleville. He might have been like he was a first round pick, obviously, but I'm not sure how high up he was.
Okay.
And then, our line gelled right off the hop, me, Millsy, and Danny, like the fireman line we were called, obviously. And, we gelled right away, and Danny gelled with me, and we got along so well. And his mom would come down just because, just to check on him, and his mom would stay with my parents and get him to the games and things like that when they were in the London-Windsor road swing. And, I just think me and Danny gelled really well together. The kid was just a phenomenal player. He could see the ice so well, right? And and then Craig was obviously a very grinding type player that would go dig the pucks out too. And me and Danny were more of the offensive. But Craig still scored 40 goals, I think, one year with us on that line. So I missed the last that year we were on pace for a lot of points as a line, and I missed the last 15 games of the year, I think. I still ended up with around 85 points or something, but I broke my scaphoid bone in my wrist and missed the last 15 games of the year. So that's the year I think we went to the semi-finals and lost out to Guelph with O'Neill and Bertuzzi, and those guys played for Guelph Storm. I think they ended up going on to the Memorial Cup that year.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Guelph would have like a juggernaut team, like I think your third and fourth year kind of thing. I think Guelph made
That's
a run
right. Yeah,
both those years.
2 years in a row we lost in the semis.
Yeah, in the third round. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So.
That's tough.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, we had some good runs for sure.
Now, what were some other guys that we could maybe chat about? Because I remember Cooper was your goalie for what?
Yeah, Coops. Yeah, he was there. He's a great guy. Another Maritimer. Lives in Kingston now too.
He's their GM. He's been the France GM the last couple of years, I think.
Oh, is he the GM there now?
Yeah, because he was with he was the Belleville Senators goalie coach.
Yeah, the American League. That's what I thought.
A few years ago when they first come in. And then he's been the GM of the France. He took that job over. So pretty cool for him, right?
So a lot of the guys that stood out with me at Belleville, like we're still such a close group. Like me and Dougie talk every day. Me and James Boyd, Craig Mills, Ian Keeler. I don't know if you remember Ian Keeler. He was another tough guy. So Dougie and Ian Keeler and Paul McCallion and who else? There was three of them, I think. They all went to the same high school and all got drafted to Belleville. They all went to the same high school in Mississauga.
No way. Really?
So we all keep in contact and have guys getaways in the summer and it was Belleville's I couldn't picture playing in a city the size of say Ottawa or somewhere like that where you're scattered all over the city, right? Where Belleville, it's such a small city, so you're always around the guys doing team things, and you're around the guys all the time having fun stuff. Even if that's doing laps around that fucking Quinte Mall 1,000 times as we did. you know.
Well, what were you doing there? Checking out girls or
Checking out brush? Yeah, exactly.
we used to call that the perv lap.
A perv lap, exactly.
Broeky still does
Trust
it.
me, we did a lot of perv laps.
But no, it's funny that you say that because like we've had a bunch of bulls on from different eras, and every single one of them talks about how when they played in Belleville, it was such a community team, and
Yeah.
that's what they loved about it. It wasn't like you said, if you played in Ottawa, you could have a teammate live a half an hour away, right? Where in Belleville, everybody lives within 5 or 10 minutes, even if you got a guy kind of out on the outskirts of town. So
Yeah.
everybody, go out for dinner or lunch, and
I lived right on Sydney Street, and Cleary lived right around the corner from me on one of those side streets. Dan Preston lived on Sydney Street too, just a few houses down. Like, fuck, you could probably walk. And Craig Mills lived at the Runyons, which was just over in like in a little subdivision over there. Like, you could walk to probably 6 guys' houses without cars. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Cleary used to actually pretty much live across the road from me. Like, we were on 2 different streets, but it was like literally 4 houses down. Fleming's looking at me funny. It was between my house and one of my best buddy, Billy McKay's houses. So I'm trying to put that in perspective, Fleming. But
yeah. Mm-hmm. Another guy, what'd you think of did you played with Sean Brown, didn't you? There's another guy.
Oh, yeah, I played with Brownie. He's another tough kid and a great player, Brown. He turned out for a 6th or 7th rounder, I think we got him in Belleville. He turned out great.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he might have been a first-round draft pick in the NHL or 1st or 2nd round or something.
He was first round, I think, to Edmonton, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Edmonton, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He still lives out in Edmonton, to be honest with you.
He ended up building with one of our players we grew up with, Colin Port.
Yeah, I was going to say that. John Port, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Port's there.
Yeah.
And then one of the guys I want to ask about was Richard Park.
Richard Park. He was drafted. See, he was the first-round pick my year. So Parksy got picked first, and I was the 2nd-round pick that year. Parksy, I'll tell you, I don't think I played with a guy with much more skill in all my life. He had a ton of skill, boy. He could play. He could his hands and his shot and his speed. He was quite a player. I'm surprised he didn't succeed farther than he did in the NHL, but he had a ton of skill in junior. When he wanted to turn it up a notch, he could do whatever he wanted with the puck.
I just remember going to the games, and it's like as soon as he touched the puck and he was going down the wing, it was like everyone got excited because he was so damn fast. You knew something was going to happen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think if he was a guy that was to play, let's say he was going through, let's say the OHL now or going into the NHL now, I think he would succeed so much more because the game's changed.
Yeah, totally. He would be, for sure, he'd be a big-time producer right now. The game's changed so much since when he played, for sure.
Yeah, but he was definitely exciting, and there was a lot of exciting players on some of the teams you played with. Lots of big fan favorites, right? We just named.
Yeah, for sure. It was, and then we had our European that came in was Radim Bachanik. I don't know if you remember him.
Okay, yeah, kind of.
Name, yeah.
He was 2nd rounder to Ottawa. He had the big slap shot from the point. He was an interesting character too.
Could he speak good English, or?
You know what? He got better. He got better at the end. Yeah. He was in Ottawa for a while, so he got better. Who else did we have that was an interesting character? He's doing really well. Oh, Paul Rushforth. I don't know if you remember Paul Rushforth.
I remember the name.
I remember that name.
He's a big real estate guy in Ottawa now, so you see his name and face all over the Zambonis at the Senators games and places like that. So Rushy's a character too. So.
Now, when you were in Belleville, do you have any maybe parties or anything like that you might remember? I think some of the guys we talked to said they had some parties at Rutt's house back in the day.
Oh yeah, Rutt was the one that would never let rookies in his house. That was one of his main rules.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I tried to break it the one night, and he wouldn't budge. And Rutt was one of my favorites, and he wouldn't let me in the house. No rookies allowed in his house.
Really? So I didn't know that. What was the thought? Just because they're young, or just?
Yeah, I think Rutt's pretty bullheaded in some of his ways, and that's what happens. He just said, "No rookies allowed in my house, boys." Okay. And he said, "Yep." Yeah. And so I guess you had to follow those rules. Molson Golden's was probably
Molson Golden. They don't even make it anymore.
So one thing about Rutt is we've heard that if you were hurt and you laid on the ice and he had to come out, he would charge a tax of 24 Molson Goldens. Can you confirm or deny that one?
Yeah, I can confirm. If you're laying there not that much pain and Red had to come out on the ice, you owed him beers for sure. He's the only guy I know that could get 12 down from Kingston to Belleville on the bus.
He could chug a beer, or he can chug a beer. Oh my! It's like, see you later. Like, where did it go?
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran into him at the grocery store recently. It was maybe like 6 months ago or something. And one of the things he just had to tell me was, yeah, Molson Gold's gone, eh? Like, I haven't drank it in a year because they stopped selling it or something. So I don't know if it's Canadian or something he's drinking now, but obviously something Molson product. But not too funny.
The only time I ever saw Rupp puke is I was drinking wine with him at a wedding, and he was just saying, "Oh, my stomach's upset because I don't have the Molson Golden here with me." And he was drinking wine, and then he threw up out in the parking lot.
Oh,
yeah, no kidding, right? Oh my God, craziness. Anyways, that's funny, guys. Yeah, so that's pretty much out that in a nutshell for me in Belleville, which was great. And then my pro career was good too, as you saw all of that. So other than that, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, no worries. No, if you got to get going, no problem at all. We appreciate your time tonight.
I got to jump. I got to get one of my boys here, so I got to finish off his homework and get him down. So,
no worries at all. Well, thanks a lot for coming on today,
awesome.
And maybe we'll see you in our golf tournament in the summer.
Yeah, if you need anything else, let me know. Reach out for sure.
Will do. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan. Take care, buddy. Cheers.
Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.